Support for the show comes from Carolina Forward, a nonpartisan organization dedicated to building a more equitable, democratic, and prosperous North Carolina.
You can learn more about their vision and values at carolinaforward.org.
North Carolina State Highway Patrol.
What cigarette do you smoke, Doctor?
A contributing factor to our juvenile delinquency of today.
Rock and roll has got to go.
And welcome back to the Hometown Holler. I'm Daniel Ayers.
And I'm Quinn Ray.
Well,
we're back in the studio
back
again.
in the studio.
We've got
a mini fridge.
we do have a mini fridge now, which is really exciting.
Thanks, Mom.
This is our second guest in our studio that we've had, but another first for the Holler. This is our first Council of State candidate.
I love the term Council of State. It sounds so mysterious. Like it doesn't meet, it convenes.
That's right.
And you walk into like a smoke-filled room with robes, and Roy Cooper is there, and it's like so is like the Duke Blue Devil and the Demon Deacon, like all the mascots. I don't know. This is what I'm envisioning.
Right.
So yes, first guest, Council of State. Do you want to introduce our distinguished?
So today we've got none other than Mr. Braxton Winston, the man who can do it all. You know, he's hailing from Camp Lejeune in North Carolina and raised by a Marine dad and a public teacher mom. Braxton got the grits and the smarts in his DNA, but not only did he excel in academics, and when he moved up to New York, he also came back down here and played football at Davidson College, where he got his bachelor's degree. He right now is a union stagehand and grip in the world of sports TV and entertainment, and when he's not busy behind the scenes, you can catch him making waves in various boards and committees, from My Brother's Keeper to Habitat for Humanity. And he also was the mayor pro temp for Charlotte, an at-large bid from 2017 to 2023. But I think one of the best things about Braxton, is he is a dad of three, and he handles all of this. He is traveling from all the way across the state, being a dad, being in all these boards, trying to better the lives of everybody. And as a dad who is also an elected official, I commend you for that.
Yeah, for
real. And now he is running for North Carolina's next Commissioner of Labor.
Because all that was not enough.
Right.
Well, Braxton, between you and our last guest, Eric Henry, reading Eric Henry's resume, reading your resume, it makes me just feel like the total loser. You know, Stop. Well, anyway, so Braxton, welcome to the Hometown Holler.
Thank you for having me.
We really appreciate you coming on the show, and one of the things I'm looking forward to hearing about is what does the Commissioner of Labor do? And I think I would bet my front teeth that if you talk to any North Carolinian who knows anything about the Commissioner of Labor, it's the elevators.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that what, like, on the campaign trail, is that all you hear? Is just, I see the Cherry Berry, right? The elevator lady.
It was her.
It's not anymore. Now it's Josh Dobson, right?
Correct.
But that's where people know the Commissioner of Labor is the elevators.
That is where people do first recognize the Commissioner of Labor. There's a part of my stump speech actually where I introduced this. There was a video from Carowinds, my neck of the woods in Charlotte last year. There's that broken roller coaster.
Just swaying, just boom, boom, boom.
And everybody's like, I asked her, why would I be talking about that? Well, the Department of Labor is in charge of the safety inspections for every escalator, every elevator, every amusement park ride, every ride at every county fair, every ski lift, every ADA lift. And, those are some of the public safety aspects of the job that sometimes we take for granted, right?
Yeah.
People don't always think about certain things, but that's why we have good government, right? That ensures some of those safety regulations that go on every day. So, when you talk about that, it really does kind of connect, like you said, that role of the position to people's everyday lives.
So does that mean the Commissioner of Labor has a giant team of employees? Because, you're definitely not going to every amusement park.
No, he is. At the state fair, like every single tilt-a-whirl with a clipboard. No, that's actually a great question. Yeah, who is?
Yeah, that is a good question. And part of that, that stump speech is that you have to go to all of those places and inspect those things. But currently 1 in 4 of those safety compliance officer positions at the Department of Labor goes unfilled.
Wow.
Yeah. So
due to people not wanting it?
Safety compliance is an important position. So when you're a corporate, these large corporations, they pay safety compliance officers very well. It's a very competitive place. So when you have to pay somebody in Vance County the same as what you got to pay them in Mecklenburg County, it can be very competitive.
Makes sense.
And from a budget standpoint. So while you have 106 safety compliance officer positions statewide budgeted, at any given time you might only have 86, 85 to 90 filled because it's difficult to compete with the private sector.
Does that mean that roller coasters, that certain structures are going unreviewed, or is the workload is just that much crazier for the remainder?
That it's a both and, right?
Okay.
So again, when you talk about fiscal,
that's terrifying.
Yeah, exactly, right. It is when you talk about fiscal responsibility, it is the duty under the law that, for instance, like you said, every amusement park ride or every county fair ride to be inspected for safety. Well, that means, right, if you don't have enough people filling those positions, somebody's got to do it. And so you end up paying a lot of overtime, right? So therefore, that's how budgets can be ballooned up. Instead of paying that hourly rate, you're paying that hourly and a half or more, depending on how that work is done. But to that end, you also have a certain discretion of the Commissioner of Labor. So the current Commissioner of Labor, Josh Dobson, there was a huge backlog of those elevators being inspected yearly. So he actually changed the language so that elevators don't have to be inspected yearly.
Great.
It suggests that they should be inspected regularly, but I think no longer does it say the rule is yearly. So,
and so does he get to write that? That doesn't have to go through the GA, does it?
So again, you guys, one thing you mentioned about the mysteriousness of the Council of State, that's a part of the reason why I jumped into this, right? Because what that really means is that's the executive branch of our state government, right? Those 10 elected officials that make up the Council of State make up the heads of our executive branch.
So it's not just the governor, the lieutenant governor.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. All of those 10 positions are independent of each other. For instance, the Commissioner of Labor does not answer to the governor, right? It doesn't answer to the General Assembly. It's its own independent department. Same with the Attorney General.
Right.
Same with the Secretary of State. And so you do have wide authority in each of those elected positions to appoint people. From the Commissioner of Labor standpoint, policing power, right? Wow. And you do get to, through an administrative process, write rules administer take away rules, right? And that is a powerful position.
Hell yeah,
right?
it is.
Because the legislature, while they create laws, it's the executive branch's position to interpret those laws
and how to enforce them,
administer and execute those laws. So you do have the Council of State. While I think it is too mysterious, and not enough people understand. Even people in the know that do politics and are involved in government every day don't really understand how important our executive branch of our government is, and it's a big reason why I ran for this office.
I think one of the things that distinguishes you as a candidate, I'm unaware of, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Quinn and Braxton, I'm unaware of any candidate for Commissioner of Labor who has a professional connection to labor, right? Is either a union member or has done, could you talk about the labor and the Commissioner of Labor that you bring to the table?
Absolutely. I think if, the research that we've done would shows that if I'm elected, I probably would be the first union member to serve in the role of a Commissioner of Labor.
That's wild to me.
And that is something that we talk about. You should have a worker, in being the lead advocate for workers in the state. I still clock in and clock out to work every day. And I've been doing that for over 20 years, like you said, working in the entertainment production business. I work rock and roll shows. I work Broadway shows, conventions. I've been a camera operator for the Charlotte Hornets for over 20 seasons. We just finished it up last week. And last week in terms of when we're recording the show, and I work on television and movie sets all across the state, and so I understand the challenges that working families face all across North Carolina day to day, and combining that experience with being the mayor pro tem on Charlotte City Council. I do believe that we should be the number one state for work and workers, for businesses and workers, right? Those two things should not be mutually exclusive.
Because right now they're on the opposite ends of the spectrum.
They're on the opposite ends. We're the number one state to do business, but near or at the bottom, depending on how you're looking at it, for workers. Number 52 for women workers.
Whoa. What is? So that's comparing us to like American Samoa,
behind D.C. and Puerto Rico.
Okay, there you go. Okay, wow.
What does that mean, being last for workers? What are they taking into consideration when they're making this rubric?
They're talking about access to pay and competitive living wages. They're talking about benefits. You're talking about, and again, like I say, even for women workers, right? You see a lot of access to women's health care is being restricted. And in terms of protections about being able to, start a family and then come back to work. Right. A lot of that onus in our state ends up falling on women, and so those are the types of things that you're looking at when they're making those types of rankings.
Man, how does the Commissioner of Labor play in that to help correct some of these? Because we know you were talking about the Commissioner of Labor can make rules, correct? But you can't just stroke of a pen and say minimum wage is $15 now.
Correct, absolutely. So that's a good example, right? So you do have at the Department of Labor, one of the departments is the wage and hour department. So what you do is you can't change the law like that, like you said, that which defines minimum wage, but you can make sure that everybody is getting paid fairly under North Carolina law, right? So you can investigate places that are being accused of stealing wages from their employees, for instance, right? And you can also advocate. You have a huge bully pulpit being in the head of an executive branch of the government, going and advocating to the General Assembly, working with the private sector, and as well as service providing organizations on the ground to work towards better policy and legislation.
I mean, I can only imagine being a CEO of a giant corporation, and Braxton just walks in unannounced and like, oh shit, the Commissioner of Labor is here, right?
Dude. Changing my pants. Yeah. I mean, well, I was just thinking what you're talking, it reminds me of, I've been following what's going on with Waffle House. So I've been following there's the meal deductions they take from the workers at Waffle House, right? They just assume that you're going to eat food at Waffle House.
And even if you don't
use it, they're taking out of your paycheck. And I'm thinking, how is this? How like, this is so blatant, it's in plain sight, and it's hurting the people who are most vulnerable. It just seems so wrong. So it would be a great, I guess, comfort to me morally to know that we had a Commissioner of Labor who shared that concern.
Yeah. Well, I think, one of the things that I think is lost in it is again, it's business and workers. It's not an and or,
Absolutely.
Right? A market-based economy depends on rules, and those rules provide the competitive environment for business owners to operate, especially small businesses, right? Like we talk about, those shortage of safety compliance officers, right? Because businesses take workers' health and safety very seriously, right? It affects your bottom line, right? It affects your insurance rates. It affects your productivity. Yeah. And so, but for small businesses, they really depend on those rules being followed so they can understand how to compete with like-sized businesses, but also take market share from bigger businesses. And if those rules aren't being followed, the small business owner really suffers, right?
Yeah.
And if you don't have a Department of Labor that is able to be responsive to those small businesses, that is helping them understand how to comply to the rules, that again also hurts the business owner, because if something goes wrong,
Right.
they're going to be held accountable.
Yeah, they're on the hook.
Yeah, so you should be able to have a department that helps provide that culture of safety, of health, and fairness, on time, every time.
This is giving me echoes again. Our most recent conversation with Eric Henry. We got to have rules. We gotta ensure competition, right? If we don't have competition, we don't have innovation, and we really don't have capitalism. People want to talk about how much they love capitalism. Well, you should also love competition.
Exactly.
Right? You should love a level playing field, because if we don't have that, we really can't call ourselves a market economy.
Exactly. And that's what you see is that regardless, whatever you feel about capitalism, the definition, the economics 101
Right.
definition, the free market depends on rules. Free market isn't just do whatever you want.
Right.
It's operate. You can come and set up a stand in this market if you follow those rules.
Yeah.
And if you don't, then you get shut out. And if there's a market doesn't have rules, then the market shuts down. That's really what happened in 2020 with the pandemic, right? Nobody knew how to operate.
Right.
It was the Wild West.
And but you were looking up to the rulemakers, the federal government, who was supposed to be setting those rules in this national emergency, and those rules didn't happen. So nobody knew how to operate. And that was an example. That's why, to your point, you need to have an entity that is competent, not just creating rules, but ensuring those rules are being fairly implemented across industries, across entire markets.
Well, and for small businesses, that was one thing that I noticed when you were just talking. You were talking about how the Commissioner of Labor can help small businesses.
Correct.
Where far too often, because I think you're going to be, you're a Democrat, and it would be the first Democrat elected in the last 2 decades or so.
Yeah, well, but just to kind of balance that, until these past 2 commissioners of labor, every single commissioner of labor in North Carolina has been a Democrat since the creation of the department.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I think to understand that doesn't mean progressive. That doesn't. I mean, this is the North Carolina history teacher coming out, and if I had to explain to kids, people would always ask, "What do you mean? We didn't have a Republican governor for 100 years or what?" I mean, it doesn't mean we didn't have conservative governance. Right. Political ideology was shifted. Right. I mean, I'm not going to get into a lecture on the Southern strategy and how it all switched in the 60s. But there really was no Republican Party to speak of for much of the 20th century.
But when you're talking about, I think where you were trying to get at, Quinn, is that, labor issues, whether they be on the worker or the employer side, some of these things shouldn't really be partisan, right? Who doesn't believe in a fair day's pay for a fair day's work? Who doesn't believe that you should be afforded a break, sometime during your workday, or that you should be able to have access to water, and not be fired for, cooling down because you work in a high heat environment.
All those things are strictly political, other than the water one. Like, that shit shouldn't be political. But the things you were just describing are political, but they shouldn't be.
Well, they've been politicized,
blue, or red.
Correct.
Yeah, I'm curious to talk a little bit about, I think we have a sense of your vision for the office and the values you're going to bring to it. I think, could you tell us a little bit about the choice the voters have? There's your vision and there's another vision. What is your interpretation of that vision?
Yeah, well, I think, I don't like to always talk too much about, break anybody down, even my opponents.
No, for sure.
But I think the choices are stark, right? You look at what's on the table.
And I also want to be clear. That's why specifically I wanted to talk about vision and not personality and not because
you have me who's a hourly worker who understands business as well, right? I always tell people you don't get to be mayor pro tem of the city of Charlotte without having buy-in from the business community, right?
Yeah.
You don't. You just
it doesn't happen.
don't. And somebody who believes in the role of governing, once you're in this position, not just being a political hack. On the other side, you've got a guy who pays his bills by representing businesses that are under investigation by the Department of Labor.
Right.
And his campaign platform, you can go and check it out. His website is basically literally make elevators great again. Joe Biden is trying to use OSHA as a backdoor to create a national vaccine mandate, and he's going to work to prevent that at all costs. And that employers are the best regulator for health and safety of their workers.
Wow. We know that's not true.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's all just demonstrably
and
false.
Again, there's plenty of great employers, and not to say that every
No, absolutely,
employer is,
absolutely.
But I mean, I always talk about good public policy is like the lines on the road.
We don't let. I mean, you've spent a lot of time with the Hornets. We don't let coaches ref games.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I was in the restaurant industry. I, owned a couple restaurants for years, and the health department would always come in, and if they just strictly left it up to the restaurants to manage the health and safety of food and not have any oversight, people are going to get sick left and right. So I can only imagine if it was the employer thinking the employer is the best one to oversee if people are getting water.
Well, like you said, I mean, good public policy. People need good public policy to help, right? Like everybody can drive straight on the roads. You can if you really thought about it, but. Having lanes there really does help. You know what I'm saying? It probably saves a lot of lives. But it doesn't mean that you have to, have somebody on a leash and making sure they drive straight all the time. So,
man, you're so right about that. I was watching Downton Abbey the other day, and there was actually a car accident.
Yeah, I didn't watch Downton Abbey.
Where there were no lanes, and a dude just got plowed because he was just driving all through the lane, and it was. Sorry, it just made me think.
It's good, but that's what I'm saying. It's good. That's what governing is important, right? Governing is important, and it doesn't have to be onerous. It's how do you understand what the common good is, and how do we achieve it and help you get there? And it's the common good isn't every step, but it's like that's where government should really play its role.
Yeah, I mean, so we're coming up on time, and there's so much that I would love to talk about, and we hope you'll join us for a little bit of after hours talk on the back porch to get into some other things. But I guess to sum up, I think so often in our local conversations, our conversations on a state level, national level, we're talking about big government and small government. And what we really should be talking about is good government.
Good government.
Yep.
That's correct.
Right. And just Braxton, talking with you today, that seems like an integral part of your platform: transparency, accountability, good government.
Yeah, that's how I came into this. I realized, growing up, I learned a lot about the federal government. And when things went wrong in my community and I was trying to hold my government accountable, I realized, and this back in 2016, that it was on the municipal level and the local level, and I didn't know how to do that. And I knew that I identified politically with the Democrats that were in power, but I could recognize that they weren't providing the type of government that I wanted, and I honestly didn't at that moment know how to work towards that. So I really dove in, kind of headfirst, showing up and paying attention to my city council meetings, my county commission meetings, my school board meetings, and on all of the kind of committees that come out of it. And I saw that these things work in a system, right? These things work in a system. And if you want to affect systemic change, you have to understand the roles that these individuals or these individual entities play in the system, and learn the language and work towards that language. And that's really what I've been trying to do for the past 7 years, is understand how do we create systemic change that provides better governance for the common good. And I see the importance that the Council of State plays in getting things on the local level done, and the more coalitions that need to be built all across the state to understand, hey, what's going on over here can be what's good for what you got going on over here. Expansion of rights, expansion of opportunity doesn't mean a shrinking of that somewhere else. What's good for this part of North Carolina can be and is good for that part of North Carolina.
Amen.
And I think again, that's part of the role of positions like the ones I'm running for to help illuminate, in different parts of our community.
Man, I'm so glad you said that you just started showing up, because far too often we hear people that they're in the political scene. You'll talk to folks and they're like, man, I really want to get involved. I just don't know how. And you just showed up, and it's really that simple. If you just start showing up and just observing meetings and learning the language. You started in 2016, it's 2024, and you're running for a statewide position. And I don't want to say that was easy, because it's not. I mean, you had a lot of foot on the pavement getting elected down in Charlotte, but
it shows what's possible.
Just show up.
Mm-hmm. Well, government is for everybody. We're all entitled to be part of it. We're all entitled to the services it provides. And democracy is for everybody, right? You don't need a certain resume to participate in it, right? You don't have to work a particular in a particular industry or a particular job. You don't honestly even have to have certain relationships, but you have to just show up, and you are entitled to a seat at the table. Where that seat is at the table versus where it can be are two very different things, but you're entitled to it as being part of this great American experiment. And I do encourage more people just to show up and figure out what role you can or want to play. And that's the number one thing. I always tell people who want to run for office, can you say in 30 seconds why you want to run for this particular office and what do you bring to it? In terms, you got to answer that in 30 seconds, and you only get to understand that by showing up and paying particular attention to what the roles and responsibilities are and what ideas that you have towards those things.
Well, we are running up on time, and that's a great segue into. Is there anything that you want to let the listeners of North Carolina know, these voters come November?
I would also say tell us where to find you.
Yeah, exactly. I would go to votebraxton.com, please, and go sign up and follow our campaign. You can hit that contribute button and help us carry this message to every one of the 100 counties across North Carolina. And again, I think I would just remind people that we should be the number one state for businesses and workers. Right?
We certainly can be.
A big reason why we are the number one state for business is because we do have one of the most educated, diverse, and resilient workforces in America. And that comes from decades of investing in it. And, nothing gets done without workers. Work doesn't happen without workers. And we really have to look at that whole worker approach, right? Yes, what's happening in the place of business, but also, do workers have places to go home to that are safe and affordable? Do they have access to health care, both mental and physical? Are they living in a digital divide? Do they have access to food? We need to work across all of those responsibilities on the Council of State, all across those responsibilities of the statewide governments, but working on the county, local levels, working with our private partners, as well as service providing organizations and folks on the ground. So that's why I'm doing this. That's why I'm running to be North Carolina's next Commissioner of Labor. And again, go to votebraxton.com to learn more and be part of this campaign.
Absolutely. Braxton.
Sold.
Yeah, we really appreciate you coming on the Holler and chatting with us, and we're excited to get into the Back Porch Talk. Folks, we hope you'll follow us there, become a subscriber, help support the Holler. If you think what we're doing is interesting and useful, we hope you'll consider chipping in and help make it possible for us to keep doing this. We also hope you'll follow us on social media, the Hometown Holler, TikTok, Instagram. We even got Twitter now. I refuse to call it X. It's Twitter. It's Twitter. TheHometownHoller.com. Anyway, thanks for tuning in, and we'll be back next week with a show for everybody. But we hope you'll subscribe and get the bonus content too.
All right. See ya.
Yep. Bye.